start the meeting.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this Postgraduate Academy support group meeting. Today we have a very, very exciting session within our block focusing on drivers to thriving in this postgraduate journey. Today we have the Student Support Services team and special guest, Kulikani Pacificus Dlamini, to speak today about being mentally ready to be physically healthy. Isn't that exciting? So, as these sessions go, it's meant to be very informal, very casual, very interactive. So please, if you'd like to comment, by all means, pop your questions or comments within the chat box. You're welcome to raise your hands as well if you'd like to voice your thoughts. Please use your reaction icons. We love it when someone gives us a thumbs up in the screens below. And let's have a wonderful, productive, interactive session as we discuss being mentally healthy to be mentally ready to be physically healthy. See, I'm getting so excited. I cannot wait for this content. I'm going to hand over to the UKZN Student Support Services team to take it away. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you so much, Lenine. And I am going to do a quick handover to my colleague, Ms. Bongiwe Gumedi, who is our Academic Development Officer within the College of Health Sciences, who is going to introduce our esteemed guest. Over to you, Bongiwe.
Thank you so much. So my name is Bongiwe Gumede, and I am the Academic Development Officer at Sports Science, so part of the School of Health Sciences. And today I will be introducing our speaker, Mr. Kulegane Pacificus Dlamini, who is a lecturer and an exercise scientist at the discipline of biokinetics, exercise and leisure sciences. He has been with us for quite some time. He did his master's in 2016, where his master's actually focused on the acute effects of varying whole body vibration exposure to jump performance in amateur athletes. He also has been teaching in our discipline for quite a while in various modules, but his research interests basically are currently in disabilities. So his studies focusing a lot in sports and disability or physical activities for communities or individuals with disabilities. But there's more strength and endurance. There's also application of kinesis, nutrition, sports performance, exercise, and health promotion, which is basically will be the focus of today. But today he will be largely focusing on use that in order to improve our physical performance and how we can utilize how we can get our mind ready so that we are able to perform better physically. Everybody, please welcome Mr. Kulegane Pacificus Dlamini, hopefully soon to be Dr. KP Dlamini. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now I feel like not speaking, just, listening to anyone who wants to speak after that introduction. Thank you so much, Ms. Kumeda. I hope you enjoy this talk. Let me try share my screen. Please tell me if you can see my screen.
We can see your presenter view.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Perfect. We can see slide 2. We can see your presenter view.
Okay, don't know how do I change it.
That's fine. I know you might need your presenter view. So what you're going to do is you're going to restart your screen share, and then you select the windows, and you select the one that's just the big screen. And then when you maneuver your presenter view, it will culture for you only. If that makes
Okay,
sense.
so, and the show?
Yeah.
Okay, which one should I choose? This one.
Okay.
I think KP, unshare, like end the share, and
And the
then
share again.
you can then
Stop.
yes, and then share
Okay.
again, but you will be sharing the PowerPoint presentation.
Is to stop so that I can, embrace the positive of exercise. So that's what I'm really looking forward to getting out of the session today. Just how do I change my mindset, acknowledging how important exercise is for me to just do it, man. Just do it. There's going to be benefit here. I need to just take that leap consistently, and that's been my problem. How to maintain the consistency.
Absolutely.
I hope I'm not alone. Actually, I hope I am alone and you're not experiencing all this strife.
You're definitely not alone, Lenine. I feel the exact same way as you do.
Thanks, Willie. I appreciate the community in that. Misery loves company, huh?
And I like how Willie said it in the chat space. It's getting down to it. I know we all have the intention of wanting to create this lifestyle of activity and engagement, but it's hard to do sometimes. Yeah, absolutely. So, Kulakani,
Yes.
can you help us with that today in our session?
I'm hoping what I will present. I know most of the people, they think I'm going to give them, a whole lot of tool of how to really increase, their mentality and exercise. But I hope my talk today will sort of engage with everyone critically in terms of how they view, being mentally ready, to be physically ready. So I've got a slight deviation from the norm, but hoping it will shed some light in terms of why we procrastinate and why we do the things that we do. And in most cases, it's because we really do not understand ourselves. And that's the reason of why I chose the topic consciousness as well. It will maybe shed some light, to some people. I hope maybe you benefit in terms of learning something new, if you may. Okay, we can start. So the reason why I have this slide here is because there is really an interconnection between the brain and the somatic body. And in most cases, people view it very different or isolated. So the rate limiting factor of exercise, first and foremost, is how we think, our brain. So in most cases, like, we do not really engage with how we think, for that matter. So there's a complexity from mental readiness to physical readiness. This is a biological process that requires a lot of systems working in synergy to accomplish the desired outcome, but only a few control and limit the overall performance. Understanding the brain structure and how to influence the brain doing what you want. Mostly the brain is our weakness as humans, and it limits our capacity to perform at an optimal level in certain times. In most cases, for the brain to sort of connect with the somatic body, it needs some calmness and restfulness. In most cases, we need to override what we do not want to do so we can yield optimal benefits in any given performance. We understand that the function of the body works in chemical energy, and that chemical energy is transformed to mechanical energy, but requires optimal processing from the brain. If that understanding is lacking, it leads to a lot of problems in our bodies, and that leads to this slide of conflict and the brain. The conflict is a very vast literature, and in most cases, we refer to this slide in terms of relationships. But here I'm going to talk about relationships or relationship with yourself. So we know there's left and right brain in terms of being objective, and then the right brain being passionate. The conflict in any cases is built in the amygdala or the brainstem that detects that there's a threat and interpret this threat as a danger. So this primal lizard brain considers conflict so dangerous because it interprets it as a threat or rejection, or being, for example, being kicked out of a tribe, which was a valid survival threat for our ancestors. Nowadays, you will have a conflict with yourself, trying to exercise, but there's something preventing you from doing so. Our primal brain still operates on an ancient software. An example of mental conflict can be dropping out of school for parents, which their situation was caused by marriage and the customs at that time. You might find yourself dropping out of school or varsity today because your brain has picked up that dropping out of your parent as a failure. So when the lizard brain detects enough threats or enough threat, it calls upon the mammalian brain, the midbrain. I think the depiction on the picture, you can see the midbrain there. The midbrain involves a lot of emotions in it. The fight and flight response comes from the midbrain, and it tries so much to protect itself, part of which it entails completely severing access to the upper brain, where your upper brain will rationalize the thoughts, the logic, the problem solving, the connection with the reality. So when we are in conflict with ourselves, we enter a survival mode and use the lower brain, which is full of emotions. Mostly in these times, we are angered, we are yelling, we are name calling, we are blaming, we are avoidant, we are very defensive. How many of you defend the reason why you don't exercise, yet we all know that it can improve our mental health? So this conflict is made because we do not understand and we are not aware of that this is happening. If we move to our next slide, consciousness. This is a really big term. In most days, I would say a lot of people think consciousness is just, waking up in the morning, knowing that you're breathing, knowing what someone said to you and all that. Because of transcendental meditation, I'm also going to tap into speaking of the journey, that I had. Sometimes awareness, of the mind, when you go through life and all, circumstances, grief, trauma, and all of that, you learn, new things and a way to adapt. So I think back in 2020, that when it hit me, through grief, that in a lot of times I'm not conscious about myself and what I do and all of that. So all these rate limiting factors, I define consciousness in three ways here, so to speak. One is transcendental, where you go beyond the abstract reality with yourself, but in real reality, through meditation, you're experiencing your inner self. The second one is cosmic, the pure self, the outer value, seen as the field of change and transformation. And then it goes up until you reach a higher state of consciousness because of meditation. The last stage will be God consciousness. But all these rate limiting factors to mental health and physical fitness, the conflict in the brain in terms of doing the right thing is because of the lack of knowledge and consciousness. Every human being, the argument that is made by TM, Transcendental Meditation, and Maharishi, the guru of this meditation, every human being is born with a birthright of human physiology, but we do not use it to our full potential. Consciousness of being is about understanding how to go beyond, to live the fullness of life, to enhance the state of awareness, peace with oneself and society. You only experience consciousness when you dive in through your inner self. When you go beyond, you find comfort and peace beyond state of consciousness and awareness. You mostly find that you are everything as you become established in meditation. You realize there is an outer reality, which is the changing self, and there is an unchanging reality, which is the pure being and the pure self. During exercise, which is planned, structured, the body adapts to the repeated physical stress on physical systems. The body only adapts if appropriate stimuli or stress is imposed, which forces the body to be familiar with the stress response over time. But how can we remove these stresses in our bodies so we can keep being physically ready for our daily activities, work, academic activities, research, and all that? Mental health can adopt a different pathway by realizing state of awareness through transcending. In transcendental meditation, the body goes beyond the experience of thought. The mind is no longer aware of thought, it is aware of itself. simply by sitting quietly and meditating for 20 minutes, improve, the conscious reality of self and the conscious reality of the outside, the environment, the people. It removes all the stresses in yourself. I think in medical school, I made an example that if we want to understand consciousness, as you see the first bullet, the conscious of thyself, transcending, meditating, you have to meditate constantly to actually improve your consciousness. Therefore, the more you meditate, it leads you to the cosmic consciousness, where you realize the pure self, the pure being, and you transform, the pure quality. You realize that the body and the brain and the mind is one, other than looking at everything isolated. So we always look at the being of a person and the soul as the good part of a person. And the body, the somatic body, is always seen as the one that sins and gives problems to the self versus the mind, the feelings, and all that. So that consciousness, building it, leads to a unified field of unity consciousness. The outer, even the outer expression, of the self, the reflection of this example can be made by the sea. When we look at the ocean, the top part of what we can see when we view the ocean, we see the waves. They are very high. Some they have low tide, some they have high tide. But the whole sea is in movement when we look at it. When we transcend, in terms of transcendental meditation, sitting quietly and going inward, looking at the ocean from the top, that's the body. But when you go deeper down to view the deep ocean, the bed of the ocean, the underlying of the ocean, the transcending, going deeper and inner, that is where you realize your pure self. Because down in the ocean, it is so quiet, so calm, so relaxed. There's no waves. The calmness of the mind connects with the outer, because as you go deeper, diving deeper, you release all the stresses through meditation. Whatever that you're thinking, whatever stresses that you have about your work, your PhD, whatever, as a postgrad student, as an academic, as a support service staff, home environment, whatever the situation may be, thinking as well is part of releasing those stresses while meditating for 20 minutes. So it is still the ocean, but you only realize this quietness every time as you go deeper, and it is extended over time. And that's where you build the cosmic, the unity, the God consciousness as you carry on with your meditation. So the next slide relates to this consciousness. So the understand myself, I took it from a psychologist that I normally follow on Instagram, on the socials and all that, Jordan Peterson. So if anyone wants to actually understand their self, it can really pave a way into understanding what are the causes of the problems that you have as a being. So everyone can go to understandmyself.com, but the negative side of it is that you have to pay to actually get that understanding. I can't remember how much you have to pay that app. But anyway, the good side is that you have the 5 big aspect scale that assess your personality. Where do you stand in comparison to others in the general population on the 5 major traits and their aspects? Mostly the 5 pillars, as you see there, agreeableness, conscientiousness, extroversion, neuroticism, openness to experience. You might find that the reason that you do not want to engage in exercise is because maybe you lack the openness to experience. And by understanding that, you can now find ways to manage it better than before. You know, or maybe adding a little bit of extroversion and enthusiasm when doing something, but knowing where it stems from. So these 5 pillars, they mostly can provide you insights if you reflect on it deeply and honestly. Also, you can get answers to the questions you have been restricting yourself from answering. If you're delaying to become physically healthy or mentally prepare yourself, this will provide answers. Why do you delay, or why do you procrastinate? It is a very nice tool to enhance your consciousness after the transcendental meditation. So in a nutshell, we always think of this gut feeling, something that we say. We take this term very lightly because we think it really doesn't exist. But as you see here, it shows steps going down or steps coming up. All this, what it says the gut feeling or the hormonal pathways, they start through the gut. And the gut feeling is really part of our health, provided we meditate and provided we exercise or are physically active, you know, at optimal levels to maintain the integrity of good hormones in our gut. As these hormones, they communicate with our brain. Hormones such as dopamine, endorphins, as I've heard one of my colleagues said so at the beginning, they want to get things going and maintain consistency. You will never be able to maintain consistency of training and exercise if your gut is not in the right order. So maintaining integrity of these hormones, dopamine, endorphins, oxytocin, all the good hormones, all of them, they are produced in the gut to keep the biota or the good health of the gut. So an unhealthy gut, you know, the biota is uneven or deficient somehow, and all those issues, they will lead to mental health problems because of that. So keeping our gut healthy, eating healthily, meditating to release stresses, because in most cases, there are stresses that are put on our bodies, but we don't know how to release them. The number one way, in person, going deeper in yourself, is the best way possible to relieve stress before going to, a therapist, psychologist, or whatsoever. So when somebody talks about a gut feeling, the realization of knowing things wrong, it's because you have an optimal gut microbiomes and biota. But somewhat, your body cannot engage with yourself if your microbiomes or biota is obscured. So this connection is optimized if you are keeping your gut healthy, because there is the connection between your body and your brain. So in essence, I know everyone maybe was thinking I'm gonna give a very hands-on practical way of how to actually exercise, but I say it's reverting back to your mind and trying to understand and improve knowledge about consciousness and where you are as a being, as a person, in terms of understanding yourself. So the take-home message from all of this: we cannot be mentally ready without consciousness, and we cannot be physically fit without understanding our quality of life. So there's many factors that we need to tackle before really getting hands-on physically. So our somatic body relates with the functioning of the brain. If there is a disconnect of the body, that causes stresses and leads to mental health problems. So to keep the body functioning well, the only way to do so is improving our brain functioning through meditation, which connects every now and then with our bodies. So my argument is that many of us which are experiencing mental health issues is because of the disconnect between our brain and our bodies. And we are thinking all this is isolated. So if we bring all the beings into one, we become harmonic. There will be less procrastination. You take things on, you have more energy, you are vibrant, people will even call you a go-getter. That is the most profound value that I found within the past 3 years about consciousness. That the more we become conscious, the more we are alive, the more we are happy, the more we want to do the things that we have failed in doing before because of our mental issues and our mental health. So the more we strive in understanding ourselves, the more we become conscious, the more we can do all the things that we want to do, the planned things. In most cases, we plan something and then we deviate from it because our brain is telling us something and our body is telling us something. So we intend to do something, but we do not action it. It's only on the mind. So with being conscious and meditating consistently, frequently, morning and evening, and then engaging in physical exercise, it yields greater and greater outcomes. So that is all I wanted to share with everyone today. I hope you have a lot of questions with the transcendental meditation and understanding myself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kulakani, and I am going to open the floor for any questions or comments. And while we wait for them to come through, I know there's a few that has come through. I like how you spoke about the or reminded us of the, you know, the chemical energy that's in the brain. And I was consciously thinking of how am I going to create this equilibrium? What catalyst do I need to actually start making this? And you kindly reminded me so much of, I need to look after myself. I need to build the self-awareness. I need to make better decisions about what I'm eating, about just looking after myself physically, going for those walks. I really like what you're saying. And I see Bongiwe's raised her hand. Go for it, Bongiwe.
Yes, thank you so much, KP, for actually opening up our minds about us having to be conscious. I just basically this is more of a comment than it is a question or anything, but it's like, for so many of us, it's very hard to even get ourselves physically out of bed or physically go into the gym because we are not mentally prepared for that particular action. And when you spoke about consciousness, and actually it's like an act to actually win your brain over before you actively win the body to start acting in a particular way. Because yes, your brain will control the movement, will do everything, but you kind of need to win your mind over. And some of the ways that has helped me personally in my fitness journey is creating an environment where your body feels safe to exercise. Because that's one of the things, the conflict, because everybody, when they go into the gym, it's like the body kind of freezes up and you're like, this is not my thing. This is not what I would like to do. This does not feel nice. So then you kind of close yourself up. So it's creating an environment that will help you be able to want to participate. So doing the things that you love. Not every one of us likes running. I don't like jogging personally. However, because I enjoy lifting weights, so I'm more prone to do that more than I will go running. So that means that my brain will kind of have a positive relationship with lifting weights than it does running or jogging down the streets. Yeah, that's my little 2 cents.
Thank you for that. In most cases, you are in the right path. But I also advise that yes, it's a good analogy, winning your mind before tackling anything, and that's what I usually mostly do when I was personal training clients. So because of COVID as well, you know, everything was disrupted. You want to win somebody's mind before you start training so they can be able to train on their own. But another thing is that most people, when they train the way they want to, not the way they can enhance physical fitness, as you're saying. If you dislike the analogy of running, I say, now try engaging with it because there's benefit. So what I learned about health is that when you look at it overall, there's no winning formula. Strength alone cannot improve everything, but the cardiorespiratory that is focused by the endurance of running also enhances the holistic view of you becoming, you know, this overall healthy being. So I say, whatever that you're doing, tap into the things that you dislike, and that is how you enhance more and more quality of life.
Thank you so much, Kulakani. I see we've got a couple of comments and questions, and I'm just going to respond to, or just mention a few of them for you if you want to respond to them. So we've got a comment here Let me just quickly go to the first one. We've got a participant saying that I am guilty of lacking openness to experience. That was when you were showing the 5-factor analysis. And she tends to shy away from those experiences where that includes, like many people, it can be quite overwhelming if you're more of an introverted than an extroverted person. And Bongiwe reminded us that this happens to the best of us, and we tend to assess, we need to assess the environment that's better suited for us. So finding that environment personality fit, which I really like what you're saying there, as it can cause us to withdraw in those uncomfortable environments. Absolutely. So I like that one. And then she had a follow-up comment, and she says, and she agreed with Bongiwe's and your comments on that there is a disconnect between the brain and the somatic body. Mental health issues will then prevail. And her question is, how do I start, small as it can be, to engage in exercise and meditation? And then she asked, would yoga be an option? And she's considering it.
There is a perfect suggestion for people that do not have time. They work, conflicting hours and all of that. A starting position will be yoga. Yoga calls on a lot of, strengthening activities, and it harmonizes very well with meditation. So normally I will start with a yoga session and then shower and then meditate after. So dependent on how, you structure your session, at least 20 to 25 minutes or 30 and beyond, that is when you term anything that you are doing as an exercise. If you are doing endurance, 20, 30 minutes and over, that's when you really exercise. But the idea of yoga really matches the meditation very well in terms of releasing stress, the calmness, and all of that. So that's a good start. You find out that the people who start with yoga progresses very well with exercise, because the reason why we stop exercising is because of a high overstimulation of the body. So we start off too high, and that's the reason why we fall too quick. So yoga acclimatizes someone very well in terms of engaging with exercise, even walking for that matter, depending on how the progression is. The 1.5 mile, stepping over in that fashion, increasing intensity slightly in terms of speed of walking. But yoga is actually the perfect start, and very much great positive outcomes. There's a lot of studies that have been done on meditation, especially the transcendental meditation. I didn't want to talk about all that, but you can go online and search transcendental meditation and studies. There's a lot of studies that have reported that exercising and meditation yields positive results in terms of critical thinking, retention of information, attention, and all those factors, of which that's what we want when we are postgrad students, to actually be critical thinkers and engage in work more efficiently without even engaging our supervisors, because we are hands-on with our work and all that. So all those things, they of engaging with yoga, they really engage you at an optimal level while matched with meditation.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I like that concept of pulling in that meditation along with the yoga. And I think I spoke and my text response was that with yoga, you start learning the basics of breathing and mindfulness. And that again is the part of the elements to my
Yeah,
meditation.
depending on how you start, because also the meditation, the transcendental, we have to pay a certain fee to start. I think if you have to be honest, if you are working, you pay a certain amount. If you are a student, you pay a certain amount, etc., and then you start the course. But the way I started back in 2020 through grief, I started online on Netflix. I think it's 100 and something paying for that monthly, and then there's a meditation series on Netflix. I can't remember what is it. You can just go there, search it,
Headspace.
and then the Headspace. Yes, I started on Headspace, and that meditation, it has 7 pillars, like how to relieve stress, for meditation, for gratefulness, and all that. So everyone can start somewhere, and then if you're willing to really engage with TM, there's a great teacher at Hillcrest. I can share details with anyone who's interested.
Thank you so much for that. And yeah, I think just knowing that we've got access to these things, and we can definitely explore more. So we have another post, and it's kind of an outwardly kind of comment. We sometimes recognize unhealthy eating habits, no exercise, etc., in our loved ones, and it having a negative effect on their health and well-being. And I think we do see this a lot, where we try to motivate and encourage our loved ones, our friends, our peers. How would you suggest we convince them to win over their minds, to commit to better health without straining the relationship?
I would think the understand myself, maybe if there's access to that, we both parties can start there, because mostly what Jordan Peterson says, the understandmyself.com is for you and your partner to understand yourselves, and when you are in conflict, how to better manage it, because you are in reality of understanding who you are, and there are facets about yourself that you really can't change personally, and there are things, material things, that you can sort of change because of that behavior. So I'll tend to suggest, trying very calm approaches, because in most cases, I've gone through therapy since 2020 for all these years. When you look at other people, you now can self-introspect and sort of analyze other people just because you've gone through something. So I wouldn't suggest that person overlooking someone negatively of what they are doing, but I would suggest maybe an open engagement, a truthful, honest engagement, where they really get to the bottom of the problem to find a better outcome. There's many ways of exploring that. I myself have gone home, sat with my mom. I'm like, Mom, you're having issues collecting high blood pressure pills every now and then. Do you think you using this type of seed oil is going to assist the problem that you have? You have to engage in a level where someone understands where you're coming from. And I said, I have read somewhere in research that all these oils that we are using have negative effect on our gut feeling, have negative effect on our biota. So by changing the type of oils that we are using improves our mental health as well. So the reason of why we are having all these mental issues is because of what we are eating as well. So sunflower oil is not advisable, for people, but it is happening in pandemic. So eating a KFC every now and then is not a good thing. but you can have it every once off there and there. But the virgin oils are the oils that we're supposed to be used by humans. So all those things are things that you can engage at a level purposefully for someone to understand what is the reason you want them to leave the behavior that they have.
I love that. I've experienced that quite often, and trying to utilize empathy and trying to understand their viewpoint, where they're coming from. I guess I struggle with the response. I know what I need to do. I'm not ready yet. And that's the response that I get quite often in my environment, and I'm not sure how to deal with that. Thank you so much for the points that you've raised within the session, the importance of knowing yourself. It's a wonderful way to take a look at how we approach things. I mean, you mentioned the 5 pillars of personality traits, and it's so important to be able to know more about yourself and understand why you're doing what you're doing, and try to use that to pivot to maybe a more healthier way of dealing with yourself and moving forward. Thank you so much, Kumbuzile, for all your comments today, for your participating within this community. It meant a lot to me. I'm pretty sure it meant a lot to this community who joined specifically for this purpose. Are there any final points from, did I miss any comments before we need to head off?
So we've got Kumbuzile that says that she advises staff and students to engage in meditation and yoga exercises to keep their bodies and brains engaged. And she definitely appreciates Khulekane's insightful presentation, and this why spiritual individuals think beyond their consciousness. So that was the last comment, and I just also want to appreciate everybody. And KP, thank you so much for your time. Over to you, Lini.
Thank you so much, Khulekane. This was fantastic. We really appreciate your participation within the session. To everybody else who has joined us today, please do join us next week for another session within our Drivers to Thriving in the Postgraduate Journey. And we'll be specifically discussing the content Thriving and Flourishing. So see you next week for the Postgraduate Academy support group meetings. Thank you for joining us. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye.